Okay, so welcome to the Brainstorm, Daly Black's podcast here at the Path to Indemnity Conference in beautiful Galveston, Texas. Why don't you tell me a little bit about you? What's your name? Where are you from? What's your business?
So, Jim Subert, I own a restoration company, Pride Cleaning and Restoration.
Okay,
We have a location in St. Louis, Missouri, and also in Wilmington, North Carolina.
nice.
And I'm also a public adjuster as well.
Awesome. A Cardinals fan?
A Cardinals fan, you
Yeah,
bet.
nice.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I grew
Won
up
the
being
game
a
Sunday.
Yeah, there you go. I grew up a Cardinals fan too. So I always start off asking the question, why are you here at the conference? So a lot of times it's easy to, meet with folks and connect and learn, but is there a bigger reason why you are here? What's your why, would you say?
34 years in the restoration industry, and I recently became licensed as a public adjuster.
Okay.
And I want to be able to learn and get as much information as I can. I've seen insurance companies over the years just feel like they didn't pay the claim fairly, and a lot of clients didn't pay us fairly either. So I wanted to learn more about how we can help and learn what I can in the industry and what's going on and throughout the country, and talk to people, experts and attorneys, and hear what we can do to better help our clients, restoration, and also PA clients that we work with as well. So
Right. It seems to be an industry that no matter how long you've been in here, you're always learning something. You never reach the point where you feel like you know everything.
right,
It's always
exactly.
a learning experience. So for me and the people that I've come across, lay people or people who don't have a direct contact in the industry, a lot of times they don't know what actually goes on behind the curtain. So I was wondering, from your perspective, what's one of the stories that sticks out to you most from either a policyholder being taken advantage from a carrier or just something egregious like that you've seen that could be a good indicator of something that actually happens behind the curtain that a lot of people may not actually know is happening?
Well, there's so many of them. And
I bet. I know it's hard to pick one.
So many of them, but I could just. One thing I want to share, there was one
Yeah.
recently that we dealt with. There was an older lady, and she had a sewer backup, or sewer basically in her basement. She called us, said there was about 4 or 5 inches of sewage. Plumber had contacted us. He was out trying to figure out what was going on. Older lady doesn't go in her basement very often.
Right.
It's hard to go up and down the steps. So
Absolutely.
just a friend or one of the kids, I think, stopped by and noticed there was a smell and went down there and saw water everywhere.
Okay.
Sewage. So plumber contacted us to come out and take a look at it. We got a hold of the insurance company to file the claim, and they started saying, well, there was a claim a few months ago for something similar, and saying, I don't think this is going to be covered. And I said, well, why wouldn't this be covered? Well, there was another problem, and we paid it under, they said, a one-time claim payment.
Right.
And I started asking some questions, and I said, so what was done, what was the process, and who did what? And then she started rattling off notes in the file to me and tell me that there was maybe seepage last time, or maybe it was a blockage somewhere or something, but didn't really know, but they just paid it.
Right.
But at this point, basically told the client, after they told her the night before, get someone out there to start cleaning it up. When we called to tell them what the damages were and what we found, they said, well, hold up, we may not have coverage. So I said at that point, I think we need to go ahead and hire my company, Armored Public Adjusters, as a PA to represent her, so I could really talk to the adjuster and policy and find out what's going on. And once I did that, sent the paperwork off to the insurance company. It was everyone's heard of State Farm before.
Yeah, of course.
And so, they recognized they got my paperwork and called me and said they want to come out and take a look at the loss, and then met with them and explained what happened.
Right.
Got a copy of the plumber's report, and then they reversed and said, well, it's a covered claim, and it's all going to be totally taken care of now through it was a fill-up. It was a blockage underneath the house.
Right.
Caused the problem.
Wow.
So she told me before I had came out, she was concerned about not getting it covered, for one.
Yeah.
And then she would have to probably sell the house to one of those ugly house buyers.
Right. We buy ugly houses.
We buy ugly houses and basically, leave and figure out where she's going to go after that point.
Right.
Now we're able to get our house cleaned up in the basement. We're also going to have the money available to make the repairs.
Good.
So it's not losing the value that she had a finished basement when we started this process. So, and also a lot of contents were lost. So it went from no coverage to it's going to be over $40,000 when it's all said and done.
And that's not an atypical story. That's something that I'm sure you see day after day after day in the industry.
Day after day. I do, and it's like I just see so many people. I guess one of the biggest mistakes I've seen, Alex, would be people that do their own self-assessment of their home. They have a hurricane, tornado, water damage, and they feel, I'm going to start looking around, and I don't see any damage. I don't see anything wrong. Everything looks okay, especially after Hurricane Florence.
Right.
I can't say a bigger situation than that. When I met with homeowners, they had been away. They left the area. Of course, you're evacuating. You come back home, and you're hearing stories on the news of a lot of tornadoes and a lot of homes damaged, and see a lot of videos. And you get back in your neighborhood, you walk in your house, and you're expecting the worst. Maybe the roof is peeled off.
Right.
Maybe there's a tree laying across your house.
Yeah.
And none of that damage is apparent. There's nothing that looks like anything's out of the ordinary.
Right.
So I met numerous homeowners in the neighborhood in Wilmington, North Carolina, for instance, that said, "Oh, we're fine. Everything is fine. No damage. You don't need to worry about it. I'm okay."
Right.
And I said, "Well, would you mind if I just do a quick moisture inspection, because there could be hidden water damage in
Sure.
the walls?"
Sure.
I said, "Yeah, go ahead and come on in, because I'm highly allergic to mold and I don't want any mold." So I started checking with our moisture meter and our thermal imaging camera, and I started finding quite a bit of moisture in the walls that was hidden. The drywall looked as normal as any other walls I've ever seen. The only indication was that there was a high readings. So as I started looking further and further, it was around a lot of the windows, a lot of the doors. Water had wind-driven rain had blown through.
Right.
And these people weren't in their house when that happened, because they were sometimes a week after the storm had passed, where any water that might have leaked in had dried up.
Yeah.
Power had been off. And
I mean, that's a great piece of advice. Don't do your own estimates. Don't assess the damage for yourself.
Exactly.
This might be a bad analogy, but it kind of reminds me. I was in a car accident a couple weeks back, and I immediately went to a chiropractor, right? And he said that the very first thing people say whenever they come into a chiropractor after they get in an accident is, "I'm fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
I'm fine. I sustained huge amount of impact from, going 60 miles per hour and getting in a wreck, but I'm good. Like, nothing's broken. I think that I'm all right." And he's like, no. I'm the expert here. Let me assess the damages, right, for lack of a better word.
Exactly.
And we'll see what's going on. Sometimes it's not a fracture or broken bone sticking out of your arm. It's not as crazy as that, but once you really get into it and you have an expert that goes in and understands the intricacies of damage and what happens from a storm-related occurrence, you start to really see the damage. So that's a great piece of advice that no one's really touched on yet in this podcast so far. So that kind of bleeds into my next question, which is, this could be your piece of advice, but if you could give one piece of advice to somebody, whether that's a fellow PA or maybe a CEO of a roofing company or a policyholder or all of them, what's one little golden nugget that maybe you learned from this conference, or maybe not, just in general? One piece of advice that you'd give to somebody aside from not assessing the damages and doing your own estimates yourself.
One thing I'd always recommend, everyone has to go through their own home, their property, their business, take their phone out, their video camera out, whatever they can, and document every single thing they have in their home.
Document
everything they have. Open up the drawers, look in the closets, open up if you got boxes or totes of things in your garage, your storage, or in your basement.
Right.
Because God forbid, what if a tornado hit your property and it leveled everything down to the ground?
Yeah.
Nothing left but the slab of the property.
Right.
And now you're going through an insurance claim.
Right.
And explaining to your insurance company what was there, and all you've got is your memory,
right,
and maybe a few photos that you may have had somewhere,
right.
But now you're trying to put together your total loss list.
Exactly, and documenting is not. A lot of people would think that it's only pictures and videos of the damage. No, documenting can also be what James Willis was talking about on stage with memorializing everything. So you're on the phone with your adjuster, right? At the insurance company. Hey, they said something over the phone. Okay, well, let's memorialize that in writing. Let's document that.
Follow up with an email.
Exactly right.
Because you might have a great memory, but memories tend to fade after a little while.
That's right.
Things in writing won't fade.
That's exactly right. And writing just carries a little bit more power to it as well. So let me ask you one more question. Last question I have for you is, this industry is really cool because essentially there's one common enemy, and that's the insurance carrier. And I think that carries over with PAs as well as attorneys and contractors. We're all on the same team fighting against one common enemy. So in your mind, for a public adjuster, what's the benefit of having a lawyer, and not even just any lawyer, but a lawyer you can trust in your back pocket? Is it necessary to team up with a lawyer as a public adjuster? Absolutely.
And
why would you say that is?
Well, because a PA can go only so far.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things that are going to be complicated cases, and the insurance companies won't budge, and you're going to need someone as an attorney that can take over the case. But the PA also has to do a good job documenting the file along the way.
Absolutely.
Because if you have a bunch of garbage you turn over to your attorney, the attorney's not going to be very successful if they're not sure what took place from step 1 to step 5.
Right.
Now they're stepping in step 6 and they don't know what transpired.
That's right.
So it's got to be, working with an attorney, you've got to make sure you have a good groundwork and good documentation along the way. And just like they said in the class, was document every file as if you may end up going to trial, because you don't know what file or case or client may end up going to trial.
Right. And it keeps the process smooth. And I think that, the PAs are more boots on the ground. It's like a lot of lawyers, we're stuck behind our desks. We're nose in the book type of thing.
Right.
So I think the best lawyers learned a lot from public adjusters, and some of the best public adjusters that I've met have learned a lot from lawyers. So it's a very,
Kind of go
yin
hand in
and
hand like
yang.
salt and pepper.
Exactly right. It's a
You
yin and
know?
yang type of deal,
Right.
working together at one common enemy. But I appreciate you sitting down, Jim. It's been a pleasure,
Well,
man. Thank
Alex,
you for
I
providing
appreciate it.
value.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much,
man.
Alex. Thanks for your
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.